everybody, Grant Kemp here from CreativeCashFlow.com. Right now I want to go over the 10B2 calculator with you. The 10B2 calculator is going to be the lifeblood of your business. It's going to be very, very important that you know what you're doing with this thing whenever it gets into the owner financing world. But at the end of the day, there is nothing else that's going to make you more money than knowing how to run this calculator. This is how you run circles around your competition. This is how you figure out what it's going to be that actually makes you the most money in the long run. So let's take a quick look. The 10B2 is the app that I've chosen to work with, and I've got many reasons for it, which you're going to see here today. Any financial calculator honestly will work. The 12C is one, the 10B2 obviously being one. I just, for consistency's sake, I encourage you to go out and download this one. It's $6. I know I keep telling you you can do this stuff without spending any money, which you can buy houses without spending any money, but you're gonna have to put the $6 in for me to get this one. As I said, it's the lifeblood of this business. Nothing is gonna make you more money than knowing how to run this calculator backwards and forwards, right? This is one of the things that I can be having a full conversation with somebody, fully paying attention, contributing, putting all the information in that needs to get given, being in a negotiation, and still in the background running all these calculations to figure out what my offer is going to be, and that's where you need to get. But that's going to happen through practice. That's going to happen after you've watched this video today so that you fully understand what to do, how to do it, and kind of go from there. On this calculator, really the only big thing that matters is that top row. The top row on this calculator, which starts with N. Everything else you can pretty much ignore for our purposes, with the exception of obviously the numbers and your basic, plus, minus, and all times, all that kind of stuff. But let's go through that top row real quick. N is number of payments, okay? Number of payments. Now, by this I mean how many payments are in the loan, not how many years is the loan for. So if it's a 30-year loan, it's 360 payments. If it's a 15-year loan, it's 180 payments. A 20-year loan is 240 payments, right? You don't put 20, you don't put 30, you don't put 15. There are some calculators that might let you do it that way, but again, we're talking about the 10B2 calculator this time. If you don't know what number that is, you can just type it into the calculator, say 30 times 12 equals, it'll show you 360, and then you can populate the N field. So that's what N is going to stand for. The next field that we've got is going to be I/YR. I/YR stands for interest per year. One of the nice things about the 10B2 is that you just literally type in whatever that number is. Is it 6, 9.5, whatever, just type it in, populate it, boom, you're done. The next one is PV. Now, technically, on a financial calculator, PV stands for present value. What is the loan right now worth? But the way that I'm going to refer to it is going to be principal value, because it's just going to make more sense to us in our realm if we're referring to it as principal value. You already know what that means, so we're going to just go off of principal value. Just understand I'm saying it wrong. It's really present value. Our next button is PMT. Can you guess what PMT is? Payment. That's right. It is for payment. PMT is payment. Now, the payment is always negative. I'm going to repeat this again, and I want you to repeat it after me. The payment is always negative. The payment is always negative. What is the payment? Negative. How often is the payment negative? Always. All right, thanks for playing along with me, that one person out there that did it. But the payment is always negative. The reason I say this is that I've trained a lot of people how to do this business. I do personal mentoring. One of the things I actually do one-on-one training with people on this kind of stuff. And invariably, the issue that people have on this calculator, they're like, oh, I'm getting something funky. Grant, what's going on? What's going on? And they've forgotten to put the payment as negative. So I'm harping this into you, and even with me harping it into you and you sitting there scoffing at me like, I get it, the payment's negative, you're still going to screw this up. And when you do, just make sure that that's the first thing that you look for. If you're getting something weird in your calculator, make sure that you made that payment negative. Next, we've got the FV. Now, the FV is really nice and easy for us, right? Because FV stands for final value. And in our world, we're doing fully amortized loans, which means that at the end of the day, once our loan payments are made for that 360 months or whatever, there's nothing left on it. The other thing that might be there in FV would be if you're doing a balloon note. Now, a balloon note says, hey, I'm going to make these payments as though I was going to make them for 30 years, right? We're going to amortize them over 30 years, but in 5 and 10 and 8 years, whatever the principal value is on that day, on payment 60, whatever that principal value is all due in one fell swoop. Okay. One of the ways that you're going to relate to that is like a hard money loan. Okay, you're used to hard money loan. Hard money loan says, hey, pay me 12% interest only, and then at the end of 12 months, all the principal is due. That's a balloon. That's a balloon payment that's getting paid. Now, in a commercial situation like investor to investor, or you're lending to somebody that's not going to be living in that property, It's okay to do a balloon, no big deal. You can do basically anything you want on a commercial transaction. Now, when you start talking about a consumer loan, when you're doing a loan that's to somebody that's actually going to live in that house, you start falling under consumer loan law, like Dodd-Frank. And while yes, you are technically able to do balloons, what we're really looking for is something called a qualified mortgage. Watch my Dodd-Frank video so that you understand all of this kind of ins and outs. But the short of it is you get more court protections if you stay away from features like a balloon. Now, again, watch the Dodd-Frank video. I'll show you a way that you can get essentially the same effect as you would have with a balloon without actually doing the balloon. Okay? So there are other ways to do that and still have the court protections you're looking for. But let's just stick away from balloons for now. But the cool thing is, because we're keeping it 0, that takes off one of the options that we need to worry about on our calculator. The way that this calculator works is that really there's 5 buttons, and you need 4 of those 5 items, and it will solve for the 5th, right? Well, we've just taken care of one of them permanently by having 0 in the FV. So now we just need 3 items, and we can solve for the 4th one, okay? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put my calculator up on the screen, and we're actually going to record directly on the calculator so that you can see how these things are working, okay? So as we talked about before, this top row is the one that really matters to us. Now, what we've got on our loan, we're going to say we've got a 30-year loan at 9.5%, $90,000, and we want to know what that payment is, okay? In other words, we sell a house to somebody for $100,000, take a $10,000 down payment, and that gives them a loan for $90,000, right? So if it's a 30-year loan, we know that that's going to be 360 payments. Well, if you look at my calculator, I actually already have 360 in that in field. If you look directly above the in, it says 360. That's what's populated there. So that's cool. I'm just going to leave that alone. We're going to move to that next button. The next button to the right is going to be I/YR. Well, I/YR, we want our interest per year to be what? 9.5%. That's what we're charging our buyers. So I'm going to type in 9.5 and click I/YR. And then we're going to go to the next field, which is PV. What's our principal value? Well, we sell it for $100,000. We take a 10 down payment. We've got a loan for $90,000. So we're going to type in 90,000, populate it there. And now we've filled out 3 of the 4 things that we need. Because remember, our FV is still 0. Our FV stays in that 0 field. So we filled out the first 3 items in I/YR and PV. So now all we have to do is touch the payment button, and it solves it for us. We've got a payment of $756.77. Okay? So that is the cool thing about how easy it is to figure this out, is it really just puts it right in front of you. It makes it very simple. Now, one of the things that I like about the 10B2 calculator in particular with this app is that you're able to actually see an amortization schedule on your screen at the touch of a button, which is just killer. Amortization is a way of describing a loan where you've got a single payment. You know, the same size payment is going to happen however many times until your loan is paid for, whether there's a balloon or not at the end of that. So in this case, one of the cool things that we have is that we can hit the orange button. So if you go to the bottom left corner, go up 2 buttons to that orange one and hit the orange button, go all the way up to the top right-hand corner. If you hit Amort, it's going to show you everything about your loan. Okay, you've got a 360-month payments. You've got $90,000 PV, you've got 9.5% interest rate, you've got a $756 payment. Notice that it's a negative because the payment is always negative, right? One of the things right next to that, it says 12 payments per year. Okay, 12 payments per year. Another time that things might get wacky for you is if you accidentally change how many payments are in the year. And I'm going to show you real quick before I keep going on with this amortization side how to change that. So let's hit the back button. Let's back out of that. Now, if you look underneath on the main screen, the main solution screen, right above the N, right below the main solution, it says P/YR 12. That's what we want. We want 12 payments per year because there's 12 months in a year. But what can happen is, let's say that you pushed a button. Let's say you push 6, and then you've hit that orange button, and you mean to hit Amort, but you accidentally hit the one directly to the left of it, and you hit P/YR. You have now said, I want this to be calculated as though there will be 6 payments every year. Okay? That might be something that you want. Sometimes I do annual payments on second liens. You can watch our second lien video to figure out what I mean by that, because it's a good way to get people into your properties. But what that's going to do is that's going to jack up your payments. Like if I hit my payment button right now, it's going to say that my payment would have to be $1,430. And if I'm assuming that that means that it's going to happen every month, that's way too much. It doesn't make sense, right? But I can see that that's wrong because that P/YR says 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit 12 to hit the orange button, and I'm going to hit P/YR, which is the payment button. That changes it to 12. And now you can see the white ones are the big ones again. So payment is what we're solving for. I'm going to hit payment. We're back to that $756.77. So let's go back to our amortization schedule. Okay, hit orange, hit amort. Again, amortization is the same payment made every month for the entirety of the loan. Mortgage payments, car payments, those are amortized loans that you're used to seeing, right? But the power in seeing this amortization schedule is that this screen right here is how you sit in front of sellers and you get them to say yes to financing your deal for you. Okay, this screen right here, because the very next thing that you see is total interest, total principal, and total paid. Well, let's act. Okay, let's act for a second. Let's remove ourselves from this situation saying that we were selling a property at a $90,000 loan at 9.5%. But let's say that this property is really worth like $150,000, and you're trying to buy it from somebody, and that person says, I want $90,000. And you say, I'll give you $90,000, but I'm not going to give it to you right now, but I'll give you interest. I'm going to pay you 9.5% interest over the next 30 years on that $90,000. And I'll tell you what, I don't ever go that high, but you can. Like if it's worth so much more, even though you're spending 9.5% interest on this $90,000 loan, even if you got like 8% interest on a $150,000 loan, you'd still be making more money on that. You can watch our principal over interest video to see more on the details on that side of things. But what I would do is I would sit in front of them and say, look, I'm not going to give you $90,000 right now. I'm going to give it to you over time. And let's say that we said 9.5%. Well, what that means is that total, I'm actually paying you $272,000 for this house. You said you wanted $90,000, I'll give you $272,000. It's just going to be over time. In interest alone, you're going to be making $182,434 just in interest. And then you're going to also get the $90,000 on top of that, right? What a negotiation tool. What a way to sit in front of somebody. And I mean, that's when their eyes start to get a little bit wider and they're like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is a great way to pose that to them. And this is one of the reasons why I say you can be having a conversation with somebody, be negotiating with somebody, running numbers the whole time, because you want to get to that screen. You want to show them, hey, I'm going to actually pay you way more than you asked me. If we go further down, this is another reason why amortization is so powerful for us. Like I mentioned before, at the first, the entire payment is just touching interest, especially with an interest rate this high. So let's go back to the example of you're selling this to a buyer, and that's the note that you're getting. Well, they're paying you $756 a month, but if you look at payment number 1 right there on that graph, $44 of that is going towards principal. The rest is paying towards interest. It's not until you get further and further down that you start knocking away at any kind of principal. I mean, shoot, we're 112 payments in here, and it's still only 106 of that $756 going towards principal. So it's one of the really interesting things about how amortization works, because since it's all interest up front, that allows you to, sell the note a little bit down the road and still have a large principal value. Watch the note sales video so that you can see more of what I'm talking about on that side, but it's very cool once you understand how interest works and the power of it. Now, another screen that's really nice that is on here is, so for us Android users, the top right has our share field. It's been a long time since I've been on an iOS. I used to work at Apple, but I've switched over to Android, but I think it just says share on it. But click the share button, okay? So when you click that share button, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to zoom into this top right graph that we've got right here. This is an amortization table right here. Now, what this shows is 3 things. We've got the green section showing the balance. We've got the blue section showing how much principal is being paid, and we've got the red line showing how much interest is being paid. Now, the vertical line, I always forget which is X and Y, so forgive me. The vertical line is showing us a percentage, right? So we know that the payment is $756. How much percentage-wise is going towards principal, how much percentage-wise is going towards interest, and then going on the horizontal axis, we're looking at the number of payments from 0 to 360. You'll see this graph ends at 360 right there. So this is exactly what I mean. Look at how much interest is being paid up front. You're way into the loan. I mean, you're already 260-ish payments in, 250 payments in before you're paying the same amount towards principal as you are towards interest. That's over 20 years before you're paying the same towards principal as you are paying towards interest. So again, watch the P over I video, watch the wraparound video so that you can understand the power that is behind this, because this principle right here is what makes you so much money, because your underlying debt is going to be being paid out on a lower interest rate, most likely, or a lower principal value at the very least, than what you're wrapping it at. And when you understand the difference between principal and interest that you're getting on the back end versus what you're paying out, that's where you're really going to make your money. So this is a really cool thing. That's one of the things I want you to play around with as homework here, is by looking at this graph, looking at what's happening whenever you change these numbers. But let's back out of that. Let's get back to our main calculator, okay? So we had our example where we sold for $100,000. We took a $10,000 down payment. We gave them a 9.5% loan for 30 years, okay? Let's say that we're sitting in front of your buyer, and your buyer says, wow, $756, that's actually pretty affordable. I could do more than that. Like, what would it be if it was a 20-year loan instead of a 30-year? Because this happens. You know, you've got buyers that want to do 20s, you've got buyers that want to do 15s, that kind of thing. So the nice thing about these calculators is you actually, since we've already populated everything in here, you don't have to do anything different here. All you have to do is change that one number that you want to change. So we want to go from a 30 to a 20. So we're going to type in 240. We're going to populate in. And now we have changed it to where this top row is no longer correct. When you change one item on that row, something else has to change. It's a relational situation up there. So we changed one thing, we've got to change something else to make this right. We've got to solve for something. Well, in this case, we want to solve for the payment because your buyer said, how much would a 20-year loan be? So I'm going to push the payment button. It's going to say $838.92. Okay? So that means that if we had a 20-year loan at 9.5% for $90,000, the principal and interest portion would be $838, negative $838. Remember, it's always negative. So then we're faced with another situation where they're like, oh man, I don't know, that's probably a little bit too much. What if it was like $800 a month? What would happen then? Okay, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to type in 800. Now, on the left side, above the blue button, there's a +/- right? That's how you're going to change if it's a positive or a negative. So you're going to hit that button. So now we have made the 800 negative. Now we have prepared ourselves to put this into the payment field. So now that we have a negative 800, we're going to push payment. We have now made that top row incorrect again because we've changed one item. Something else in the relationship has to change. Well, what do we want to change? Do we want to change how long they're paying us? Do we want to change how much interest they're paying us? Do we want to change how much principal they're paying us? Let's say we want to keep the principal, we want to keep the interest, so okay, we'll do $800 a month. I'm going to solve for N. That makes it 280.64 payments. All right, that's more than 20, but I don't know exactly what that is. The cool thing that you can do is just hit divided by 12 equals 23.39. So basically you're looking at 23 and a half years that you've changed just by changing that small amount in payment, the $40 less, right? Does that work? Okay, is that cool? Good, you've got a solution for you, right? Typically what I'm going to do in that case, like if my buyer said yes to that, they said, okay, that's about right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to round up. That says 280.64, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 281 into N, and I'm going to solve for the payment. That's going to be the number that I put as their payment, $799.72. The reason why is it just makes it a little bit easier to divide out. What's happening there, right? So it's a little bit over 23 years, but we know it's an even amount of payments. It's 281 payments, right? We're not just ending their loan in the middle of a month. Okay, so let's go back and let's say that they're like, okay, I'm pretty good with that, $799, 281 payments. Then you make the contract and you go. But what if they're not? What if they're like, you know, I can do $799. I'd like to do 20 years. How can you make this work? Okay, so now we're back into this is how it works. This is how you get inside and out of this calculator. So they told me I want $799 a month. I'm good with that, but I also want 20 years. So we're going to put 20 years into that end field. Let's say you don't know that 20 years is 240 months though. So you're going to do 20 times 240 equals, 20 times 12 equals 240. 12 months in a year times 20. It's 240. Now we're going to hit N, and that populates in. Just kind of a neat thing. I'm going to repopulate that to 280. Just kind of a neat thing. Another option that you have is you can actually do 20 times 12. Don't even hit equals. Just hit the N, and it will go ahead and populate that for you. Save you a little bit of time there. So we know that they can do the 20 years, the $799. Now we're faced with the question, do you want to take less principal, or do you want to take less interest? Well, first, let's see what that relationship would do to our interest. If we solve for interest right now, because remember, It's no longer accurate. I changed one of the numbers, so I'm going to solve for interest. I'm going to click that button. That puts it at an 8.83% interest. Okay? That now makes sense. Is that what you want to do? Perfect. That's what I would do. The other option would be, no, Grant told me I should get 9.5%. So I'm going to put 9.5% here and see what the principal would be. Okay, that's $85,794. That makes sense. You could do that, absolutely. But I'm going to tell you right now, and I want you to watch my principal over interest video, because the right choice is to leave that at $90,000 and adjust your interest. So this would be what you have: a 20-year loan at 8.83% interest, $90,000, $799.72 a month, plus taxes and insurance. The reason why being, if your buyer goes out and they sell their property or they refinance their property, how do you get paid? Do you get paid off of the principal that they still owe you? Or do you get paid off of the possible hopeful income that you would have had from interest? Right? You get paid from the principal. Right? So we want to make sure that that principal is higher and the interest is lower. I know I say 9.5%, but at the end of the day, prefer principal over interest. If you've got that choice, make that choice. Right? So what I want you to do is I want you to arm yourself with this information. I want you to go home, or if you're already at home, grab a sheet of paper and draw out some columns on the sheet of paper, right? And at the top, I want you to write N, I/YR, PV, PMT. You can leave FV off because FV is always going to be 0. But then I just start writing numbers. Don't try and make anything. Just literally just randomly write numbers into that, right? Okay, I'm going to do 273. I'm going to do 6%. I'm going to do 90,000 and figure out what the payment is. I'm going to do, I don't know what the loan amount is, but I'm going to do 9.5%, $85,000, and $600 payment, right? Write yourself down like 20 of these things and only fill in 3 of the 4 items and just write out random numbers and then calculate it. Go in here and calculate each one of those and fill in that last number. And every time you calculate it, or not every time, but commonly enough, hit that orange button, hit the amort, look at how much interest is being paid, because this is how you familiarize yourself with this whole world, with this situation, and understanding what is and isn't happening relationship-wise. And then, once you've done that, just start changing a number. Change a number on there, and then solve for the other numbers and see how that affects it. Because what's interesting is sometimes you can see a 1% interest difference can make a big difference on your total interest. And by that, let's look at this. Let's say we did 8% on this loan. That'd be a $752 payment a month. And by looking at our amortization, our total interest is $90,699 or $669. So let's say just $90,000. But let's say I did 9%. Total interest is now $104. That 1% interest increase over a 20-year period accounted for almost $15,000 or $14,000, right? Understand that, because by understanding this, this is how you get the upper hand in your negotiations going forward. So guys, it's very important to know this. As you move forward with the rest of it, it's very important to know this, because this is going to be what makes your money. This is how you get your money in this business, is your basis of knowledge on your calculator and being able to run circles around your competition that way. As always, I like for you to keep in touch. Let me know if things are working for you. Let me know what's not working for you. Grant at creativecashflow.com. I do personal mentoring as well, so you can always reach out to me on that side of things. I don't accept everybody that wants to do that program. We'll have to go through an interview and figure out if it's best for both of us. But if so, I do that as well. I can help you along the way there. Don't forget, Propelio.com, doing an amazing job sponsoring these videos, doing just some incredible stuff over on their website. Go check it out. Go sign up for an account over there. I don't get any kickbacks from you doing that. I just truly believe in the product, which I said even before I was standing in front of a giant logo of them. They just do a great job. So like us, like them, Facebook, subscribe, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. And until next time, keep on learning.